So in Urban Science Education for the Hip Hop Generation, he engages the reader in this journey of music. Not just any music, but more the hip hop history and what the music brings to culture and the importance of it going into a classroom. He understands the importance of how and what a student should learn and argues that educators should be more willing to listen to what students have to say and consider that. The first few chapters, and then argues that hip hop is a form of expression, and I agree. He also guides readers to explore the different ways of teaching to connect urban youth to school and science. He also talks about that hip-hop is sometimes a part of the youth's childhood, and when they are in an urban setting, it is just a part of where they grow up and a cultural norm. So the two themes that I'm going to choose are student-centered science instruction, and that music gives students the opportunity, the chance to choose a different way to learn more in a different form other than just music. For the first one, student-centered, it allows the student to be inspired from learning about science or other subjects. It creates them to be more motivated because when they have a little bit more fun with their subject, they will actually be more interested in it. It will become their main focus and priority, and this develops a strong relationship between the teacher and the student, especially if the teacher has a strong interest in what they are teaching. It encourages the student to develop skills mentally, emotionally, and physically. And of course, at the same time, encourages their independence, but at the same time, it equals their respect. From my research, student-centered teaching is very valuable and useful. It allows the students to be in charge of how they learn instead of the teachers just demanding them their curriculum. The students know what they need to learn, they know what they don't know, and so that they will help each other, the students, know what they need to learn more than what the teacher is going to give them. Knowledge is power, so engagement and interest, so of course the students need to be involved. The better curriculum needs to be created or developed, so the standards are not always effective. Better environmental surroundings. There needs to be a safe environment for each classroom so that there can be more student-centered teaching. The other part of my research was that teachers and students' behavior, the attitude, belief, and values reflect in their teaching. The interpretation of students is important. You need to understand what the students are understanding. They understand that each student is different. You can have the brightest student in the world, and if you teach them differently, they're not going to understand it the same as the student in the back corner. Self-assessing of teachers need to understand the process. As a teacher, you need to know that you're not going to be perfect every year, so you need to build on that every single year. Every single lesson that you do, you need to get better and better every time. Engaging and responsive. That's why we do the evaluation forms at the end of every year, even at University of La Verne, so that our professors, that our doctors need to become better every single year because everyone makes mistakes, so they need to become better. How to do this? Biggest thing is one-on-one engagement, and that's kind of tough with teachers because you have a class of 30 students, but you will always have chances where you just need to have the ability to do a one-on-one engagement, and I feel like that is where you're going to make the biggest impact of your teaching career. Giving positive and negative feedback. Of course, every teacher wants to give positive feedback, but there are so many times where the student is not going to like it, but you need to give negative feedback just so that they can achieve what they don't think that they can, but you know that they can. So we need to give negative feedback so that they can push further with that. Have discussions about topics with the class and the groups. I feel like in class sessions, if everyone is participating in class discussions with the topics that we're going over, either class discussion or just put them into groups, I feel like each student will have a chance to say what they need to say, their own opinion, and I feel like it will bring out more of the students' idea.
Well, the old way of teaching was the teacher-centered learning, and in the last few years that's proven to be not as beneficial to students as student-centered learning is. Students learn better through collaboration, working well with each other. They work better on project-based lessons where they have to go in and do something on their own and with their peers instead of just copying notes down on a board from a teacher. Instead of being passive learners where they're just sitting there taking the notes like I mentioned before, they become more active in their learning, which helps them remember it and learn more effectively.
Student-centered learning is beneficial because it gives the power to the student. Rather than having the teacher up front being the sage on the stage, as it's been said before, it gives the student the power to charge their own learning, to put the power behind their own learning, and they see the actual benefit right there. Just like when you have an experiment or something like that, they get to go ahead and they get to go hands-on, and this is their own learning center. This is them making sure that they understand, rather than just following what the teacher says and just trusting them that it is important. They get to see for themselves.
Learning through music. Growing up, music played a huge role with me. I used to grow up with all my polka music, so we had the chicken dance, the beer barrel polka, all that. And then of course we learned the ABCs through that, the 1, 2, 3s, all of this through music. It's a form of gathering thoughts and makes it easier to learn. We can even talk about calculus my senior year, talking about how we can find different equations through music. There's so many songs that we can do the equations for it. This allows students to be open to learning a new technique form and encourages various styles. So like I said, through the calculus, there's so many songs about the 50 states, all this. Creativity and fun to make things cool, but engaging and interesting for the student. So if you can find a way to have the students learn and make it fun, this is going to help them know it better, because I already know so many college students right now that want to repeat their songs just because they know it and they're proud of it. So it's really fun. They'll be much more successful and involved if they have a fun way of learning instead of being forced to dig their head in a book. So many of the textbooks nowadays is just so boring. So many social studies books, extremely boring. Science books, they're trying to make it more fun, but they're still so boring. There's so many YouTube videos, so many things that you can find that are making songs, making just fun videos to make science useful, so you can know it better. From the research, the hands-on engagement, it goes back to the student-based learning, how they need to be singing the songs, they need to create the music, everything, and so that they can solve their own concepts, so it doesn't have to go through everything else. Exceptional opportunities, it allows them to solve them on their own. Creativity to be informed of what they are doing. So through these activities that we're doing, they will understand a little bit more because they're going to have more fun with it. The coordination of ideas and create situations to challenge a student so that each student will not be left behind. They're each going to have their opportunity to be challenged to do the same work as the other child. My next slide from the research, creativity of the students is important. It develops the foundation of education and a lifelong future. I wish I was more creative, or I wish I had more creative teachers when I was younger, because now I'm really not that creative, and it does affect you, because if you are a child and you have creative teachers making you become more creative when you're younger, it will affect you in the lifelong future. Powerful tool in the student's learning, which engages students and teachers. Of course, it will engage the student because they're going to have more fun, but teachers are going to want to grade them better. They're going to want to have more fun. They're going to want to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning to come into class and teach these classes. It's awesome. Classroom environment reflects school philosophy and values along with the teacher. I've gone to a couple schools, and they all have basically the same philosophy and values, that they need to be more creative, and that I've seen so many projects that they've used over the years, and I just love it. Opportunity to relate to their own genre. So I've seen a lot of teachers do their different things, but they allow the students to do their own idea of what their project is. So again, how to do this is by making songs easy to learn. So like I was saying about the calculus songs, the ABCs, the periodic table, listing the presidents, listing the 50 states in alphabetical order. There are so many ways that we can have the students learn, and I know so many students even in college now, I just took a U.S. history class, that know the 50 states because of a song that they learned in 5th grade. So I really appreciate those teachers that are working on this, and I hope to do the same.
Well, for science especially, there's a lot of little stuff that you have to remember. And for me growing up, it was so hard to remember because it was just the old way of remembering. You just had little things that you had to remember, and that was it. With music, you got a beat to it, you got a rhythm to it, and it just makes the memory so much better. I have not fully utilized music in my first year as a science teacher, but I have seen a lot of other teachers use it effectively. And I think I would like to try that maybe in my future years.
Music is a very good memory device, and it's a good way to connect with the student, especially if you use music that comes from their own genre, what they really enjoy, what they like. Then they can see then they can connect with it. They can use it to memorize charts, the elements, anything, any long list they can put to music, and then they can follow that along and be able to apply it on a test or something.
According to Emden, each student goes through their different way of life. And so in my own experience, I've felt that with my tutoring this last year. And I believe that through the struggles that the students have, they will bring a different way of learning things. And I believe that everyone connects with music. It doesn't matter what type of music that they listen to, but each student will connect to some type of music to help them understand it. And so I believe that going through this, the calculus songs, the songs about the 50 states, all the presidents, each student can connect that way. We need to look closely and see that there are many things wrong within the classroom sometimes, and this translate into the classroom to be successful. However, the expectations of students is quite too high when we take cues about the ways students communicate, according to Emden. He also adds the importance of looking at perspective of the growing culture in students in science teaching and learning. As students continue to struggle in urban schools, it is the job of an educator to transform and bring light for the students in a positive manner.